Hello, hello. I have a very busy week this week. So this week I've done it again. I'm pretty sure this was the same thing last year. I'm planning to announce a readathon. By the time you've seen this, the readathon announcement will be up. Y'all know it's coming. I've already put it on social media and stuff that it's happening. And making a readathon and doing a month-long readathon at the same time as planning a brand new candle release. And I'm pretty sure I did this at the same time last year. September is it's the start of the fall release, which rolls right into Christmas. It's a busy time for me. I don't know why I like to make myself more stressed, especially as September is my favorite month of the year. I don't know why it happens. Well, I do know why it happens. I do it to myself because I just can't plan ahead, but that is where we're at. So this week's reading vlog, I'm planning on reading 2 books, and they are going to be my September arcs. They're both on my Bookopoly TBR, and the first one that I'm reading I have started, and that is The Last Graduate by Naomi Novik. I'll just take this off so you can see the beautiful cover, but this one is on my TBR. Wow. To read it's not a fantasy, is it? Is it? No, it's not my most recent purchase. You know I'm all over the place when I don't even know what my own TBR is. It's a community shelf pick. What was the community shelf card? Author TBR from my video of all of the authors that I wanted to read from. That is why this is on my TBR. That took way too long. Oh my god. But this one is the sequel to Deadly Education. When is it released? Do I know? Do I know anything today? It says the 29th of June on here, but I know for a fact that it was postponed to September, but it's released sometime in September. It is the sequel to Deadly Education, which is a magic school book. The series name is The Scholomance, and this is set in a world where there is this magic school that's kind of built into the void with one foot in the real world, and the purpose of the magic school is obviously to train. Why did my camera just turn off? The purpose of the magic school, I'm having a day. The purpose of the magic school is to train magic wielders to, did that actually record? It did. So the purpose of the magic school is to train people with magical abilities, and the reason why this school is so needed is because there are demon type things called Maleficara that hunt down and eat magic wielders. So everybody sends their children to be trained at the Scholomance, and the Scholomance has a ton of wards built into it to minimize the threat of Maleficara. They do still sometimes get in, and the graduation hall of this school is a room full of monsters. So not only is it unlikely that you'll survive your time at the school, only half of the people who survive to graduation actually make it out because of this room full of monsters. And the reason that the room is full of monsters is because there was a technical malfunction in the wards that keep the Maleficara out of the school. So we're following a main character called Elle, who is very standoffish. She has been rejected her entire life by a whole ton of people, including her family. The only person she has is her mother. There are magical guilds in here called enclaves that can power share, and they have certain benefits, and Elle isn't a part of one of these. So the only way that she stands a chance of graduating is to form an alliance. So the first book is about her either joining an enclave or forming an alliance, and the reason why this is so difficult for her is because she is known as, I can't remember the word for it, but essentially she has an affinity with dark magic. So people keep their distance because of that, and even though she doesn't want dark magic kind of finds her. It's incredibly easy for her to learn curses where she has to work at normal spells and enchantments to be able to perform them, and she is trying to avoid the dark arts as much as possible while they are constantly trying to attract her. So I really liked the first book. I really connected with Elle. Elle is a biracial main character, completely different circumstances, but a situation that I very much related to, and the way that she treats people because of the trauma that she has suffered throughout her life, I also really identified with. I identify with Nestor as well. What does this say about me? All sorts of things that I don't want to think about. So I really loved her as a character. I did enjoy the story, but I didn't like the writing in Deadly Education because it has a very conversational writing style and tone to it, and there's also endless exposition. Because of this conversational tone, Elle will be narrating the story, and then it will just go off on a tangent, which is a really big paragraph, not even paragraph, pages of world building, so much so that you forget where you're up to. So by the time you get back to the main narrative, you're confused as to why you segued into this info dump anyway. So I'm hoping that because that was the first book in the series, that the majority of the world building is going to be done and there's not going to be quite as much of that. However, I am 30 pages into this and I have noticed it a little bit so far, but hopefully it's kind of limited to that and not massive pages like before, but we will see, I guess. I really hope I like this because I love Elle as the main character. It's just that exposition, I just cannot get behind it. Like, I don't like world building done in this way. So today I filmed my announcement for Bookopoly. I finished editing my vlog, made the thumbnail for the Bookopoly readathon announcement, and now I have to go and proof my vlog because it's going up in a couple of hours. I also have a group hang, like a video chat planned tonight with a couple of my friends, which I'm really excited about. And yeah, that's me done. So I don't know how much I'm gonna get read tonight. Ideally I would like to get to page 150-ish, like minimum, so that's another 120 pages from where I am, but time is limited. I have a lot on. If I could finish proofing my vlog and make a start on editing my readathon announcement, that would be ideal, because this week, like I said, I'm sorting out all of the stuff for the readathon, and I also have a candle release to sort out. So I've got a lot on, but I'm gonna try my best. Hey, so this book is like under a stack of other books, but I might DNF The Last Graduate. I really don't know what to do about it. The chapters are really long in this, they're like 30 pages each, which isn't anything to do with the reason why I'm DNFing it, but I'm only 3 chapters in and I'm on page 90 and it's only 375 pages, and granted I haven't had a lot of time to read this week so far because Monday I was still working on last week's vlog. Tuesday I did some cross stitching during my little group hang, and then yesterday was the Buffy watch along, so I read a little bit before that and then I worked out afterwards and then read a little bit more in bed. But it still has the exposition things, the writing style that I don't like, and I don't think it's just that, you know, I think it's because it's paired with this conversational tone that I'm just really struggling to follow it, because Elle will just go off on a tangent then come back to the point, and it's hard to sift the useful information, like the information that I actually want to know, from the information that I don't actually care about, that's like the exposition bit that isn't super relevant. It is really irritating. I really don't like this style of world building in this, and it's really maddening because I like the setting of this. I like the vibes. I love a magic school. I like the characters. I just hate the writing style. Like, it really grates on me. I had a brainwave last night while I was reading, and I thought that maybe the audiobook for this series would be better than reading the books physically, because of this conversational tone. Like, when I listen to audiobooks, I predominantly listen to thrillers, and I prefer them to be in first person because it's as though somebody is like telling you a story verbally as opposed to like reading a book to you. So I listened to a sample on Audible of the first book in the series, Deadly Education, and I think I might be right. I think that this might be a series that I prefer in audiobook, but the audiobook isn't available because this is an arc of the book isn't out yet. But I haven't made my decision yet. I'm doing Patreon sprints tonight. I may start another book instead and see how I get on with that, and then maybe come back to this one. I don't know. I don't want to DNF it because I do like it and I want to read it, and if I had the audiobook right now I would just switch to the audiobook and listen to that, because it is a audiobook where the narrator has a decent, like, it sounds like a decent audiobook, and I sped it up to 1.5 and it was still super easy to follow, but I just don't have the audiobook because it's an arc. So I'm not sure what I'm gonna do about that, but I'm gonna decide this evening. I was gonna say I'll ask my patrons, but there's no point because they'll just tell me to DNF, and I'm really picky about DNFing. I have DNF quite a lot this year actually, but I will keep you guys posted on that and let you know what my decision is, especially if I do end up starting a new book tonight, which I think might be the best thing to do. It might be better if I just started a new book and then came back to this one later in the week if I felt like it, depending on how I feel about the other book as well. If I'm not enjoying the other book, then I'm screwed this week. But I'm now taking pictures of the new candles that are going on sale tomorrow. So we have the Bookopoly one. I'm also doing a Red Rising and a Stormlight archive one, but my printer has run out of ink, so I can't print my Stormlight labels, so I'm gonna have to do the photos for that tomorrow when my ink arrives. Really frustrating because magenta has run out and I have a cartridge for every other color aside from magenta, so apparently I must use a lot of it. But then after that I'm going to make a start on making my candles for the week. I was going to do it tomorrow, but I've changed my mind. And then I have the Bookopoly premiere at 6, which I'm kind of excited about but also kind of scared about, and Patreon sprints at 8. So I have quite a lot going on today, quite a lot to do, and I'm actually in that phase, you know, I talk about it all the time, where I'm just sat dithering about everything I need to do instead of getting on with it. So yeah, I'm gonna go and try and get on with some stuff and see how I progress.
Casey, I don't wanna buy you drugs. Like you so much better when you're not fucked up. Boy, you're just a little too much like that. Whoa, whoa, whoa,
morning. It's Saturday morning. I still have not finished the last graduate, but we are in the home stretch now. I have 50 pages of this left. I think it's exactly 50. I'm on page 334. So I'm gonna finish it now. I'm gonna stay here until I finish this. It's actually picked up in the last like 30-40 pages that I've read, but I was reading until, what time was it, 2:30 last night, when I just wanted to go to bed. I didn't want to carry on anymore because my eyes were really tired. So I've had a full night's sleep, the best night's sleep that I've had all week. Actually, I've been sleeping really poorly, and I have also had a touch of depression the last couple of days. So I relied on some of my anxiety management techniques last night to help me get a good night's sleep, and it worked because I don't really have any depression management techniques. I think that's the key sign of depression, you know, when the depression's settling in, you can't even be bothered to try to manage it. But yeah, I've had a little bit of a mental health dip the last couple of days. So today I'm just gonna finish my book and then clean, and hopefully the cleaning will make me happy. I don't want to clean. It's a really nice day. It's a really rainy day outside, kind of grey, not pouring down, but like a little bit drizzly, which means that I just want to sit here looking scruffy as hell with my blanket and my book all day. But sadly I have things to do, so that's not gonna happen. So I'm really mad about this book, and my feelings are pretty much exactly the same as they were about Deadly Education. The last like 90 pages of this were so good, and the reason why they were so good is because there was none of this like cutting away to random pointless information that you don't even need. Like, some of the cutaways to information in here is just like random tiny tidbits about very specific like niche enclaves, and it's just not necessary, and it really takes me out of the story to the point where like I can't follow half of the book, because by the time we get to the original point that caused this segue, I have no idea where we are, and it is so frustrating because I adore the characters in this book. I love Elle so much. She's this character who is incredibly drawn to dark magic, but she doesn't want to be a bad person, and half of her family just completely cast her away. They wanted to kill her when she was a baby. So she was raised in seclusion, like I think a lot of wizards are in here unless you're in an enclave, but she was raised in this really private healing community with her mother, and when she entered the Scholomite she had no allies or friends, and nobody liked her, and she kept herself to herself, and she's become this very like angry, hateful person right at the beginning of this story, and she goes through immense character development throughout. And then we also have that paralleled with Orion, who right at the beginning of the first book is this hero who keeps saving people, and Elle is incredibly annoyed when he saves her because she doesn't think that she needs his help, and what she really doesn't want to do is be owing anybody any favors. And I love the parallels between those two, because Elle is just so angry and bitter, and Orion is just like this dopey little helpful puppy that follows her around. So I love those two so much. I love the concept of this magic school. Something that I'm not a huge fan of within this is that it doesn't have a hard magic system. Personal preference, soft magic systems are really not my thing, but a lot of the magic in here is built on intent. So for a lot of things there are no concrete rules. I generally just don't really jive with that, but I love the concept. I think it provides like the autumnal spooky like magic school dark academia vibes, but I just despise the writing style. Like, I truly hate the writing style, and I think why I'm so extreme in my dislike of the writing style is because I love everything else about this book so much, but I just cannot get past that writing style. I gave this one 3 stars. Essentially with the first one I hated it and loved it in equal measure. I nearly cried at the end, like it pulled an emotional reaction from me, but I cannot stand the writing style in this. Oh, and then to top it all off, it ended on a massive cliffhanger, and I'm devastated. I did find out today though actually that this book is only going to be a trilogy. For some reason I thought that when the first book was announced they were saying it was going to be like a 10-12 book series, but apparently it's going to be a trilogy. Naomi Novik has said on Goodreads it's going to be a trilogy, and I'm glad it's not going to be super long because I am going to read the last book because I love it so much. Like, I'm invested in the plot, especially with that massive cliffhanger and seeing how everything comes together, but there's only so much longer I can fight myself through the writing style in these books. And I know a lot of you guys would be saying like, oh well, don't read it then if you don't like it, but I do like it. I just resent that I have to fight through this writing style that I absolutely hate. Even if it was just like a personal preference, which it kind of is, like I don't like a conversational writing style, I don't like world building done in this way. It just makes it so much worse when I don't feel like the information that we're getting from these sections is really relevant at all. But I did have an arc of Deadly Education, I had an e-arc from NetGalley, I have the physical arc of The Last Graduate, so maybe I won't get an arc of the third book and I will listen to the audio and see if that helps me along, because I do really think that this writing style would lend itself to audio a whole lot more because of how conversational it is, and you could kind of listen to it like somebody's just telling you an account of what happened. So that is that done. This is on my Bookopoly TBR to read a book by an author from my author TBR video. So that is done, and I'm going to be reading one more book for this vlog. Fingers crossed I can get it finished, and that one is going to be Little Thieves by Margaret Owen. So I have an e-arc of this on NetGalley. I've actually had it for a couple of months, but I wanted to read it closer to the release date, which I once again is sometime in September. And this is a retelling of The Goose Girl, which is a story that I'm not actually familiar with. It is about this princess who is betrothed to the prince or king of a faraway kingdom, and when she travels to that faraway kingdom she takes her maid with her. Now something happens along the way and they end up switching places, so the maid goes to marry the prince and the princess ends up spending, I think it's a year, as a servant, and then eventually the princess comes to claim her rightful place, and this book is the maid's story. So I'm not familiar with The Goose Girl to start off with, but I don't know whether this book is kind of going to be like the maid is the villain and we're reading from the villain's perspective, or whether the maid has been misunderstood and we're reading from her perspective. But I have read Margaret Owen's duology, which is the Merciful Crow duology, which is very divisive. Some people love it, some people hate it. Now that is a book with a writing style that a lot of people hate, that I actually really love. And I recently finished the duology, really enjoyed that one as well, so I am expecting to enjoy this one. I don't know if it's a series or a standalone. I did look on Goodreads and it doesn't say, with it being a retelling. I think it might just be a standalone, but regardless I'm really excited because I really enjoy Margaret Owen's writing. I'm thinking I'm going to really enjoy this one, which will be a little bit of a nice change from this. My only kind of concern with it is that it might be a little bit dense, because I did find The Merciful Crow a little bit difficult to get into just because the writing style is, some people say that it's overwritten. I personally just think it has a distinctive writing style and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Also, I will say, if you're wondering whether to pick up like what the vibe is for The Last Graduate, if you loved Deadly Education, it is more of the same, so you're gonna love this. Essentially it's just more of the same, so whatever your feelings about the last book were are pretty much going to be exactly the same in this one, I would say. So I could do with cracking on doing some reading, but I'm not going to do that because I have other things to do. So I'm gonna go make some lunch and then do some cleaning. I want to do all of downstairs today, this room being the one that needs it the most, and also the one with a little bit of clutter hanging around. So wish me luck, because I actually just want to get in bed. I'm not feeling too great, but I'm gonna start off by making myself some lunch and we'll see how the day goes.
I don't tend to give no trust like that. I stay adamant with the same things, but I still get up in my daydream. When I stop listening to my conscience, get lost in this nonsense again and again. She hangs on way too tight, like it's her dear life, and I should probably run away. Said fuck my friend's advice, just come through tonight. I'll ruin my life with you, baby. But Casey, I don't wanna buy you drugs. Like you so much better when you're not fucked up. Boy, you're just a little too much like that. Whoa. Casey, I don't wanna fall in love. Thought I had the time, but it's just not enough. Boy, I don't tend to give no trust like that. Whoa. She took away all of my youth now. 20 going on 42 now.
Hey, so I have a little bit of unfortunate news about Wicked Thieves by Margaret Owen. I'm real sad about it. I'm going to be DNFing it for now. just for now. And the reason for that is that I have had the ebook on my Kindle for ages, since I got approved on NetGalley, and when I opened it, the formatting is like absolutely atrocious. Like, it's just very difficult to read. With all of the picture pages, you know, like the title sections and maps and things like that, they're all spread across like multiple pages. So I tried installing a new copy of it, like downloading a new copy of it to see if it had been fixed, and it hasn't. So then I tried the NetGalley Shelf version, absolutely fine, but I can't install NetGalley Shelf onto my Kindle. I don't think there's a way for me to sideload it like I can with Scribd, and I also don't read on my phone. The only time I ever read on my phone is like if I go to the doctor's or the dentist or something and I'm sat in a waiting room and like for 20 minutes and I can just like make some progress while I'm there. And I also tried the protective PDF version, which once again was absolutely fine, but I can't view that on my Kindle. Once again, my Kindle is the only tablet that I have because I have a laptop and a computer. Like, I don't need a tablet, so I don't have an iPad or anything. Curtis also doesn't have a tablet, so I can only read it on my phone or my laptop. I don't want to read on my phone. The pages are way too small and the light is too intense, and the same is kind of with my laptop. When I worked a normal 9 to 5, I used to read on my computer, once again on Scribd, like on my lunch, or if it was like incredibly slow afternoon, and I could kind of do that if I was sat there at the computer anyway, but I can't just sit on my sofa, especially because I'm in generally lower lighting environments with artificial lighting. It's fine with daylight, but I don't get a whole ton of reading done in daylight hours. I tend to read quite late at night, and yeah, it's just not practical for me to read it on my laptop. I can't sit there for an hour and look at it because stuff. So sadly, I'm going to have to DNF this one, and I'm really sad about it. I did read 75 pages of it, so I did make it a little bit of the way through before I realized that I just can't read it. If I did read it, slash if I do read it, because I may progress with it in chunks, it would have to be like 25, 30, up to 50 pages at a time. So we'll see if I do decide to do that. I will be buying this book. If I don't read it, I will be buying this book. If it's not in a subscription box or something, I end up with it anyway. I will still get this book because I do still really like Margaret Owen, and I did really like what I read of this. So I will tell you a little bit about what it's about from where I read so far. So it is a retelling of the Goose Girl, still a story I'm not familiar with, and we are following a young woman called Vanya who was abandoned to the gods of death and fortune when she was a child, and they kind of raised her up until the point where they gave her a proposition where she had to pick one of them to serve, and she refused to do it. So what I can gather, because she hasn't actually talked about her time in service to the princess yet, but from what I can gather, that is the point where she went to serve the princess, and she spent 3 years doing that, and she spent 1 year being the princess. So she got rid of the princess somehow and has taken her place, and she has been stealing from the royalty and the nobility to try and raise, is it 1,000 guild, so that she can escape and make her own way, and she wants to get out of the reach of her godparents' death and fortune and make her own life for herself. However, one day when she's trying to pull off one of these elaborate burglaries, as she's escaping, she gets caught by another minor god that curses her and says that by either the full moon or the new moon, she has to have paid back everything that she has taken. So all of the stuff that she's taken essentially, and also the life of the princess that she stole. And if she does not do that, she is going to turn into a pile of rubies and diamonds. So she ends up with like this ruby growing out of her cheekbone. Kind of grim, actually. Not really a fan of that. Makes me feel a little bit weird, but it definitely has roots in like Germanic culture, and it's reminding me a lot actually of the Safi origin story in Truthwitch, with just the kind of atmosphere and the vibe. It feels like a very kind of standard YA vibe, like can't lie right now, with the like princesses and royalty kind of setting, which is very different from the setting of the Merciful Crow. But I was enjoying it. I only made it 75 pages into it. I wasn't even 20% of the way through. At the moment, I will say I'm not vibing with it as much as I did the Merciful Crow, just atmosphere wise, but I am in no way, shape or form able to make a judgment on that right now because I didn't make it far enough in. So I am going to be picking up a new book now, which is going to be Senlin Ascends by Josiah Bancroft, and I'm going to be, I think I might try listening to the audiobook of this one because it has really tiny text, and I did listen to a sample of the audiobook the other night, and this is Aaron from Bookton Busy's Busy Bee Book Club book for August, and she very kindly invited myself and Cody from Cody's Book Corner to co-host, so I do need to read this, and I'm going to make a start on it tonight. Like I said, and as you've seen in this vlog, I have been cross-stitching again, so I'll probably read a little bit of it along with the audiobook so I can get the flow, and then try and switch to audio only so I can cross-stitch at the same time, because I've become obsessed again and that's something I really want to do. But I'm also going to be wrapping up this vlog here, and I am going to be reading this in intervals, so I'll probably touch on my progress throughout next week's vlog. But I'm going to be reading fantasy romance next week and I'm real excited about it. So yeah, that is the end of this week's vlog. I read a book that I loved and loathed in equal measure, and I DNF'd a book I was actually really excited to read. So not really many successes this week, but I do hope you guys have enjoyed this vlog if you've made it this far. If you have, then please don't forget to like if you liked it and subscribe if you wanna, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye!
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you're real go and nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.